Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Lepri of Stokastic.com, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my week number 13 FanDuel Contenders. We're going to be going in depth into my top 8 quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends in terms of optimal percentage on the week number 8. The least optimal out of the group, number 1, you guessed it, the most optimal out of that group. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below as well as hitting that like button. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, cool graphics going to fly on the screen right now at NotoriousFNTSY. We're going to be talking about a sponsorship, BetMGM, a little bit later. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 13 FanDuel Contenders. We begin with the quarterback rankings at number 8 with Kenny Pickett of the Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta, 6,700. Justin Fields coming in at 7 of the Bears going up against the Packers at home in Chicago, 8,500. Jared Goff at 6 of the Lions going up against the Jaguars at home in Detroit, 6,800. The true breakdown begins here at number 5 with Jalen Hurts of the Philadelphia Eagles going up against the Tennessee Titans at home in Philadelphia, 8,800 on FanDuel this week. Projected for 22.1 fantasy points. The team is 10th in implied point total on the week with 24.25, favored by 4.5 points with a 6.3 optimal percentage and a 7.6 boom percentage. This matchup up against the Tennessee Titans have a lot of people betting on the Titans plus the points, getting 4.5, but ultimately I do think this should be a relatively good game. I think that Jalen Hurts could take over. The rushing upside is so immense out of Jalen Hurts, but the problem is with so many good games on the week, with so many games that could potentially be shootouts, super high scoring, I honestly don't think this game really has the ability to be that, and that's why Jalen Hurts is sitting here at number 5. At number 4, we have Deshaun Watson of the Cleveland Browns going up against the Houston Texans in Houston. The comeback game for Deshaun Watson, $8,000 on FanDuel this week. Projected for 20.8 points, the team ranks 3rd in implied point total with 27 and are favored by 7 in this spot. 6.4 optimal percentage for Watson, 7.9 boom percentage. Now, my worries about Deshaun Watson really have nothing to do with the fact that some people think he might be rusty going into this game. I don't think he's been sitting on his couch with his thumb on up his ass playing Call of Duty with Kyler Murray. I think he's been training with his trainers. Ultimately, here up against the Houston Texans, this could be a huge spot. My worry is that the Cleveland Browns are kicking the shit out of the Texans in the first half, and then we see a lot of running in the second half, thus not allowing Deshaun Watson to show off his full abilities. Here, though, I do think this is a good spot, as a lot of people are going to be nervous to play him. At number 3, we have Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty, quarterback of the Bengals, going up against the Kansas City Chiefs at home in Cincinnati, 8,300. Projected for 21.1 fantasy points. The team ranks 5th in implied point total with 25.5, tied with the Lions and the Jacksonville Jaguars. There are 2-point dogs in this spot with a 7 optimal percentage and a 7.2 boom percentage. This is one of the matchups that I really love because I could see this one being an incredibly high-scoring game. 60+ points in this one. Now, I'm not saying that's a lock to happen. I'm just saying that I could see that happening. Joe Burrow has beaten the Chiefs twice last season. I do think ultimately that the Chiefs will end up winning this game, but even if the Chiefs end up winning, you could still see a big boom performance out of Joe Burrow. I do believe Jamar Chase is going to play, just adding another piece, another weapon to the bag of Joe Burrow here. I think there's going to be a huge spot out of him. At number 2, we move to Trevor Lawrence of the Jaguars going up against the Detroit Lions in Detroit, 7,500. Projected for 19.4 fantasy points. The team is 5th in implied point total with 25.5, tied with the Lions and the Bengals. This game is a pick'em currently, 7.2 optimal percentage, 7.2 boom percentage. Now, we just talked about how the Bengals versus the Chiefs, this could be such a high-scoring game. Well, I know not everyone has the same praise for the Jaguars and the Lions, but ultimately, this one could be a real tit-for-tat high-scoring affair, and Trevor Lawrence is priced pretty hefty this week at 7,500 because that big game he had up against the Baltimore Ravens last week. I do believe this is a great spot for him. I think there's going to be an incredibly fun game, and I love stacking Trevor Lawrence with both Christian Kirk and Zay Jones in this game. If you're trying to get a little bit sneaky, you can go with Evan Ingram. I love this spot for Trevor Lawrence. He's going to be one of my highest owned quarterbacks on the week in FanDuel. At number 1, we have not Jacoby Myers, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy Guap, quarterback of the 49ers, going up against the Miami Dolphins at home in San Francisco, $7,000 over on FanDuel, projected for 18.4 fantasy points. The team ranks 8th in implied point total with 25.25, favored by 4 points, 10.10 optimal percentage with an 11 boom percentage. Now, I get why you would like Jimmy Garoppolo, especially because of the price tag that you have to pay. But ultimately, I am a little bit worried that this game might be low scoring, that because the Niners defense is so stout, they're so strong, that the Dolphins aren't able to necessarily have that crazy firepower that we're used to. I mean, they were beating the piss out of the Houston Texans in the first half. And then, on the other side of the ball, Jimmy has a lot of these weapons. He's got Debo, he's got Ayuk, he's got George Kittle, he's got Christian McCaffrey, right? So one of the best offensive weapon just around him. He does. He has one of the best units around him. And I do worry that this might be a lower scoring game. I'm still going to be playing Jimmy Garoppolo, but just understand that I have a little bit of, throwing a little bit of caution into the ring here. Now we move to the running backs, beginning at number 8 with Kenneth Walker III. Sir Kenneth Walker of the Seahawks going up against the LA Rams in LA, 8,100. Josh Jacobs, who absolutely skull-fucked the Seahawks last week, of the Raiders, going up against the LA Chargers, 9,500. Big price tag. 6, Derrick Henry, the big man himself of the Titans, going up against the Eagles in Philadelphia, 8,800. At number 5, we have David Montgomery of the Chicago Bears going up against the Green Bay Packers, 7,000. Now, the belief right now is that Justin Fields is going to end up playing, and this kind of causes a bit of an argument in my brain. There's the devil versus the angel on my shoulder. Devil says, Nick, Fields is back. Teams can be able to move the ball more, can be able to move the ball more effectively. Sure, maybe Justin Fields might vulture a touchdown away from David Montgomery. He might steal some rushing opportunities, but ultimately that's better for Montgomery. And then the devil, I don't know which one I use, but, you know, the other guy on my other shoulder is saying, Nick, I'm a little bit thinking that, hey, now Montgomery's going to get less usage because they don't have to run the ball as much with him. And, you know, it's a bit of a debate, but I honestly think that Justin Fields does actually help out David Montgomery a ton. Projected for 13.8 fantasy points, 21st in implied point total with 20.5. Tied with the Atlanta Falcons, 3.5 point dogs. Woof, woof. 13.8 optimal percentage, 7.3 boom percentage. Without Khalil Herbert, David Montgomery is in an incredible spot. Now, obviously, Tristan Ebner is still going to get usage. Matchup against the Packers, a little bit of a wet dream. I kind of like David Montgomery this week. At number 4, we have CMC Dynamite. Christian McCaffrey of the 49ers going up against the Miami Dolphins, $8,200. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm not going to be big on McCaffrey this week. The guy's coming into the game banged up on a fucking peg leg type deal here. He's not going to be 100%. I get the upside is there. He is one of the most talented running backs in the NFL. The Dolphins' defense is amazing against the run. I just don't see Christian McCaffrey being the guy that wins me all the money. Projected for 16 fantasy points. Team ranks 8th in implied point total with 25.25. Favored by 4 points. 14.3 optimal percentage. 11.3 boom percentage. I'm staying away from McCaffrey. Again, I'm giving you guys all the facts, though. You know, our projections like him. I just personally do not. At number 3, we move to Aaron Jones of the Green Bay Packers going up against the Chicago Bears in Chicago. $7,400 projected for 15 fantasy points, 12th in implied point total, tied with the Seattle Seahawks and Geno Smith. 3.5 point dogs, 15.6 optimal percentage, and a 9.8 boom percentage. But before we dive back in Michael Phelps style on Aaron Jones, go to the wide receivers, then close out the video with the tight ends. Always got to save those tight ends for last. I do want to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our sponsor. They've been on the screen this whole entire time, BetMGM. If you're a brand new user, the BetMGM, and click on the link in the video description down below or in the pinned comment, you can activate this offer. You will bet $10 on any World Cup pregame money line, and you'll win $200 in free bets guaranteed as long as there's another goal scored in the World Cup, which is guaranteed to happen. Another goal is guaranteed to be scored in the World Cup. So please make sure that you take advantage of this right now. I'm going to throw it onto the screen real quick. BetMGM, you're going to go to the top of the screen, click on soccer. There's a little soccer ball next to it. Scroll down, pick whatever fucking game you want. Whatever game you want, you are going to bet $10 on them. I'm going to pick the biggest favorite, and then you'll receive your $200 in free bets. Whether this bet wins or not, you are guaranteed to get your money, and this ends on Sunday, so make sure you take advantage of it right now before it disappears. Back on into things with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones has been pretty incredible recently. Obviously, last week we did see A.J. Dillon find the end zone. Even when the game went to Jordan Love, we still saw a lot of Aaron Jones. He's been seeing a crazy amount of snaps game in and game out for this team. I'm very excited about this matchup up against a bad Bears defense. I'm a big fan of Aaron Jones. The price, Not too hefty, though, over at 7,400. At number 2, we have my guy, Gibby, Antonio Gibson of the Washington Commanders, going up against the Giants in New York. Actually in New Jersey, 6,100 projected for 12.7 fantasy points. Team ranks 18th in implied point total, tied with my Dolphins. 2.5 point total, 18.9 optimal percentage, 8.5 boom percentage. My biggest worry about Antonio Gibson is that we see what we saw last week, and that was a hefty workload out of Brian Robinson. Now, Brian Robinson has earned a role in this offense. Gibson's more the pass-catching back, but he's still going to get a decent amount of touches. But I fear that this is going to be an incredibly low-scoring snooze fest. A lot of running from Brian Robinson. I like the price of Gibson. I get the matchup. I get why our projections like him. I'm just not the biggest fan of him because I think this might be another Brian Robinson game. At numero uno, Dameon Pierce of the Texans going up against the Browns, 6,500. Back-to-back games where Dameon Pierce has absolutely fucked you in the ass. But here, this week, up against the Browns, we have a much softer defensive matchup, projected for 14.7 fantasy points. The team ranks 23rd in point total, implied point total with 20, tied with the Les Titans, 7-point dogs, 25.6 optimal percentage, 13.5 boom percentage. People will be scared to jump back in the well with Dameon Pierce, but I'm all over that, baby. Now we move to the wide receiver position at number 8 in little tiny text over there because the man's got a long name. Donovan Peoples-Jones of the Browns going up against the Houston Texans in Houston, 6,100. Christian Kirk of the Jaguars going up against the Lions in Detroit, 7,500. Garrett Wilson of the Jets going up against the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota, 6,600. At number 5, where the true breakdown begins, we got my guy Tyreek, the freak Hill of the Miami Dolphins going up against the 49ers in San Francisco, $9,000. It's a little high. Not just a little high. It's really high. Going up against probably the best defense in the NFL. Projected for 15.5 fantasy points. 17th in implied point total with the Falcons and Commanders. 4-point dogs. 12.2 optimal percentage. 12-point boom percentage. Now, despite this matchup being incredibly tough, this is the battle of the minds. Mike McDaniel versus Kyle Shanahan. The coach versus the student. The student versus the teacher. Fucking Darth Vader versus Obi-Wan. I was once the master, or you, something like that, he says in Star Wars. When we first met, I was something, but now I am the master, is what fucking Darth Vader said in that scene. I don't remember exactly what it was. I tweeted it out, though, a little bit ago. It was a Photoshop of Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDaniel dueling. Pretty cool. Think of myself as a bit of a Picasso, but yeah. So when it comes to fantasy here, what we're here for, DFS, I don't like this. I don't like this one bit. The Niners defense is incredible. It wouldn't surprise me if Tyreek Hill went fucking crazy, though, because all it takes is, like, I know Tua's not like some check down merchant, right? He throws the ball deep, but all it takes is like one screen. Tua can take it, or not Tua, Tyreek can take it 80 yards to the fucking crib. So I get it. I get it. And the game environment, a lot of people think this is going to be high scoring. I think I'm in the minority there. I think it's going to be a little bit lower scoring. I get it, though, with Tyreek. I get it. He can turn any game into being literally the best receiver in fantasy. On the week at number 4, we have another receiver in this game, Debo of the Niners, going up against the Miami Dolphins at home in San Fran, 6,800, projected for 12.6 fantasy points, 15.9 optimal percentage, 8.5 boom percentage. Team is favored by 4, and they have the 8th highest implied point total with 25.25. Now, if you hop on into the statistics like I do before I make these videos, obviously, got to be prepared to talk about this shit, and if you look at Debo's stats, this guy is popping like some champagne. He's pops in prime time. This game's at 4 o'clock. His 2 good games were in prime time. The rest, Snorlax, sleeping. The price tag's good, though, 6,800. That's why we got him here, the price tag. At number 3, we got Justin Jefferson, Jay Jettas. Now, he's going up against Sauce and the Jets, 8,700. People are going to be scared to play Justin Jefferson, especially the casual base. You know, the casuals are going to shit bricks thinking about, oh my God, Sauce Gardner. And they're going to get so nervous, man. Justin Jefferson's going to rip Sauce Gardner a brand new asshole. Projected for 16.5 fantasy points, 14th in implied point total with 23.75. Tied with the Ravens, 3-point favorites, 15.9 optimal percentage, 16.2 boom percentage. People were saying the same exact thing. Oh, the Patriots defense is really good. Sure they are. Justin Jefferson destroyed them. Ripped them a new ass, like I said. So, again, people will be nervous about Justin Jefferson. Don't be scared. Number 2, we got Davante Adams of the Turn Your Volume Down, the Las Vegas Raiders going up. I didn't even scream it that loud. I'll keep it a little tame here on the DFS channel. If you're subscribed to Notorious Fantasy by Stokastic, that's where you're going to get the fucking battle roar of me screaming, the Raiders. 8,600 projected for 16.7 fantasy points. Team ranks 4th in implied point total with 25.75. Favored by 1. 19.5 optimal percentage, 17.5 boom percentage. Now, he did not necessarily shit the bed last week. He did if you played him in DFS, but I'm not saying he didn't put up like 0 points, right? But that was a good game against Seattle. Josh Jacobs obviously ran hard. He ran all over that defense. Ran a train on him. I don't really expect, and sorry for smacking the table. I know that made a little bit of a noise, but I think Davante Adams hops back on the saddle here, has a bounce-back game. Chargers defense, can you smell it? It smells like shit. Chargers defense is ass. So I really think this is a good game. And the Raiders have an ass defense, too. So this should be a really fun one. At number 1, we got my guy, Amon-Ra St. Brown of the Lions going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. $8,000 projected for 17.1 fantasy points, 5th in implied point total, with 25.5, tied with the Jags and the Bungles. It is a pick'em, 23.4 optimal percentage, 19 boom percentage. Again, man, I'm really talking myself into this game. I really like the Lawrence stack with Kirk, with Zay Jones, maybe a nice Amon-Ra run back. If you're feeling a little spicy, you got to pay the big bucks. But there's some cheapies you can put in there too, or maybe Evan Ingram can go in there instead of Zay Jones or Christian Kirk. Should be a fun one. Big fan of Amon-Ra. People were making fun of him because he was never really he was a big price, and every week you play him and you're like, God, that was a good game, but it wasn't good enough. It wasn't that I played him and that's why I won. Last week looks like you played him, you could have won because he played so well. So I think this week we see a nice great game out of Amon-Ra yet again. Now we move to the tight end position at number 8 with Gerald Everett of the Chargers going up against the Raiders in Las Vegas, 5,400. Moreau of the Raiders going up against the Chargers, 5,500. Hayden Hurst of the Bengals going up against the Chiefs, 5,300. At 5, we have my guy George Kittle of the 49ers going up against the Dolphins, 6,200. I've called a lot of guys my guys, but they just are. Projected for 9.4 fantasy points. The team ranks 8th in implied point total, favored by 4, 9.2 optimal percentage, 8.5 boom percentage. I'm normally someone that likes to pay up for the tight end position, and I think George Kittle is sitting in a pretty solid price range this week. There are only a couple of tight ends. Their names are Kelsey, Andrews, and Kittle, who I think can score 3 touchdowns in any given game. Obviously, I know that's a crazy outcome to happen, right? I know it's not normally going to happen, but let's be honest, do you really see Gerald Everett scoring 3 fucking touchdowns? No. That's why he's 5,400. But I could see Kittle doing that. He's 6,200. So that's kind of my thought process on that. Number 4, we got Evan Ingram, who we talked about before, of the Jaguars going up against the Lions in Detroit, 4,800, projected for 6.9 fantasy points. Very nice. I like. Insert joke about a period getting in between a 6 and a 9. That would be really funny if I was in middle school. But now I'm 23, so it's not as funny. Still is, though. Still is kind of funny. 9.6 optimal percentage. Flip that around. You get 6.9. 4.3 boom percentage. Evan Ingram is, I talked about this in the DraftKings Contenders video, literally the definition of boom or bust. He's going to have great games. He's going to have games where he literally scores 0 points. That's just the risk you play with him. Again, great matchup for him. At number 3, we got Mark Andrews of the Ravens going up against the Broncos. Broncos country. Let's ride. 7,100. Mark Andrews dropped an easy touchdown that he probably has been thinking about all week. Now he gets the Broncos, one of the tougher defenses in the NFL. Projected for 11.5 fantasy points, 9th in implied point total with 24.5, favored by 9.5. Should be able to cover that, though, because Russell Wilson's a disaster. 9.9 optimal percentage, 13.9 boom percentage. I like Mark Andrews in this spot, but I'd rather have Kittle. Let's just be honest. He's $900 cheaper, and the matchup's better. At number 2, we got Freiermuth of the Steelers going up against the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta, 5,900. Projected for 9.7 fantasy points, 17th in implied point total, 21.5. 1 point favorites, 11.5 optimal percentage, 9.8 boom percentage. This is a great matchup against Atlanta. Freiermuth continues to just be fucking eating targets like Ezekiel Elliott's fat ass eats Thanksgiving dinner. I like Muth this week. Wet dream matchup against Atlanta. Final tight end here. Who's it going to be? You could... We all know who it was going to be, right? Everyone and their mother knew it was going to be fucking Travis Kelce. You have the Chiefs going up against the Bengals in Cincinnati, $8,400, projected for 15.6 fantasy points, first and implied point total 27.5, 2-point favorites, 14.9 optimal percentage, 25.2 boom percentage. This is one of those players where I'm not going to spend a minute fucking doing some deep dive Michael Phelps dissection like a frog of Travis Kelce. You know why he's good. You know why you're going to play him. You know why you're going to pay the big bucks. So thank you guys for watching. I love you guys all so much. Love you guys so much. Please make sure if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. I'd love to talk to you guys down there. Make sure you guys check out our sponsor, BetMGM. Bet $10 on any pregame money line bet on the World Cup. Receive $200 in free bets as long as someone scores, which is guaranteed to happen. So I love you guys all so much. Hope you all have a great rest of your guys' day. Again, shout out BetMGM. They've been on my hat this whole entire time. Love you guys so much. As always, guys. Good boy. Make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button as well. Boy.